It is. Look at this. Oh! 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 Oh, here we go. Oh, baby. XDefiant has been a real breath of fresh air, breathing some well-needed life into the very stagnant arena FPS gaming market. Some of the big IPs, the big major franchises, their recent releases have left people feeling a little bit lackluster and kind of wanting something a little bit new, something a little bit fresh. One of the main things that really annoys people these days with things like Respawn FPS games is skill-based matchmaking, or SBMM. It is so frustrating when a game basically sacrifices fun for fairness. It tries to get everybody to a 1 KD, so if you go massively above that, you'll play people who are way better than you. So you're always in a game where you're pushed to your limit, it feels like, to keep you restrained at that 1 KD, for example. But in this game, in XDefiant, there is none of that. So the unranked playlist is just, it's a complete lottery, and it leaves the opportunity for you to play like an absolute god. The feeling that you used to have back in the day when you queue, for example, into a Call of Duty lobby, it was a bit of a lottery. You'd see someone's prestige level, that might give you a good idea of how good they're going to be, but by and large, you didn't know what was going to happen. Were you going to dominate? Was that person going to be really good? Were they not? And it meant that it kind of, it kept you playing, because the next game could be one where you absolutely crush. You might have one game where your teammates are really, really bad, for example, and your team does very bad, you get dominated by people much better than you, but then the next one you might load into and you're way better than everyone and you have an insane game, and it feels like you're literally, like I say, it feels like you're a god moving around the map. And that's something that you really just don't get that much anymore in FPS games. I mean, even for example in Halo, I used to play a lot of Halo ranked competitive stuff, but I also love to jump into the social stuff, big team battle, that social side of gaming. It feels like we've lost it so much, and these days it's all about sweat, and it's all about kind of, making sure that everybody is on a level playing field, even in that social playlist, which I think it makes sense why it's there, right? It's there because it keeps less skilled people glued to the game a little bit longer than if they're just getting crushed and dominated. But at the end of the day, if you keep playing, you will eventually become the person doing the dominating. So it's not like you have to always, there are ways that you might get better at the game, if that makes sense. But anyway, SBMM is not in this game, and it's been great. I've had some games where I get dominated, other games where I dominate, and it's felt so fun. It's felt almost weirdly nostalgic in a certain sense, but it's definitely a direction I feel like games could really kind of move forward in, and maybe take a learning from this, that this is really getting people excited. They kind of so much chance for stories, for emergent narrative, for cool things to happen in the game, where if it's just level and sweat all the time, there's not much room for fun and funny things to happen, or big clips, or whatever it might be. The good things I like about XDefiant, the first thing is the factions. I like the cleaners, the fire. They're very distinct, different types of abilities. I'm not going to go into that. It's not going to be a video where we just describe everything about XDefiant. But ultimately, I really love the defense characters where you have shields. I love the med characters where you can have like healing. You constantly heal people passively, which is wild, and you can throw little healing stations down. I've really enjoyed playing as both those two, but the others are also great. I mean, the fact that on one of them you get these goggles where you can see through walls, and you get a pistol that is extremely dominant, is really cool. And there's just a lot of fun, a lot of variety, keeps the game fresh if you want to use a different thing. And they feel quite well balanced, at least at this stage. It doesn't feel like one is completely dominating. All of them have their pros and cons. And it feels like one of those situations where like they're all strong. Like it's not like they need to nerf anything. It's like everything is buffed. Everything is powerful. And that leaves all the different factions you play feeling like super like energetic and fun to use. And to that point, the abilities are awesome. Like some of them are crazy. Like the fact that the fire characters have napalm drones is insane. There's just like things in the game that are like really like very different, just things we haven't seen before, and I think it's really cool to see that, and it creates so much chaos, but like fun chaos and also manageable chaos as well. It'll be interesting to see how it develops. Like I'm sure like certain abilities from certain factions will become like meta and it will get boring, all that sort of jazz. But the thing is, if there's no SBMM, it doesn't really matter. Everyone's not going to be running the meta. You will find new players. You will find like random lobbies that are just a weird concoction of different teammates. And so I don't think it's going to get completely like meta stomping, if that makes sense. I think it's unlikely that will happen. I'm sure in ranked that kind of thing will go on, but it feels less likely to happen in this game than other games. Another thing I really like about this game is the movement speed. You move so fast in this game. Like you absolutely fly around the map. And it's really fun. Like it's cool to be able to kind of get involved in a fight and then just quickly dodge away, get involved with something else. The ability to run away, chain different kills together. It makes this like really fun kind of feel to the game, and it feels super responsive and fluid. There's a few things in the movement though that aren't great, but I think they're intentional. So for example, the ability to get out of a slide and fire, there's a slight delay there, but I think that's intentional, so it's not completely insane. And then there's also like a slight delay on the ladders. The ladders are a bit kind of clunky. Doesn't feel like you can move on the ladders super fast. But by and large, the movement feels really fun to use. But there's definitely some elements in it that are slightly clunky. But yeah, I mean, the lack of SBMM, the factions being really cool, the abilities being really cool, and then the weapons as well. Lastly, the weapons are so good. Like even just the base preset weapons are so fun to use. Like the MP5 is mad. If you saw my other video where I got 61 kills with it, it's insane. I've been using the P90 today and the sniper and even the marksman rifle as well. These weapons are really fun to use. And a great variety of playstyles. It feels like you can do all of those things and have a good time. It doesn't feel like you're going to get completely steamrolled if you choose to use weapon X, for example, because every weapon has quite a viable chance. Of course, some are better than others, but you can still kind of make it work using anything, which is really fun. There are definitely bad features in this game, though. Some things I've noticed which are, I think, quite fixable. I mean, for one thing, the grenades at times seem to hit invisible walls. So you'll be looking down a corridor or something. You'll go to throw a grenade, and it might just like clip into something, and it seems to just be right on you and doesn't go down the corridor. Now, you might be able to say skill issue to that one. It might just be me getting it wrong, but I've noticed it a few times. It's not just been once. It's been a good amount of times where I've tried to launch a grenade and it's just like landed on my feet, and you get that like red flashing symbol that it's right at your feet, which is really like annoying, especially when it's like a critical moment where you need to get that grenade thrown to like pin people back or something like that, stop them progressing forward, and you throw it and it lands on your feet. It's really painful when that happens. The second thing that I think is really something that they could maybe tweak a little bit, the weapon progression does seem really slow. Like it feels so slow. Like I put in so many hours. I think I put in like 7 or 10, I think about 10 hours now. And a lot of it I was using the P90 for hours and hours, and I didn't rank it up. And some of these games I was getting massive amounts of kills and really like big dominant assists, whatever, lots of like scoring on it. And I didn't get anything close to like max level on the weapon. I'm not saying max level, but just at least a level where I got all the attachments, you know, because some of the attachments are up there, like on these weapons, like level 40. And if you play for like 10 hours using guns and you haven't ranked up any of them to that, like, and I'm not necessarily a bad player, it doesn't feel necessarily great. However, actually now thinking about it, it probably isn't 10 hours of gameplay, because another bad thing was the servers on launch. But now they're fixed, you can understand that they just got that a bit wrong. It seems to be weirdly the norm now that live service free-to-play games, when they launch, the servers don't seem to work. I don't know why that is. All that being said, I think I've seen that across comments as well, and I've seen a lot of people saying that in my chat, that weapon progression generally feels very slow, and that's not so rewarding. It's gonna get tedious. You know, you want people to be able to at least get through all the weapons ranked up relatively quickly, where it doesn't feel like a complete slog and grind, so you kind of have a level playing field when it comes to weapons. You want a new player as well to be able to get up to speed with the players that have been playing for a while relatively quickly. You don't want them to have to grind for like 10-20 hours to get the same weapons that the people who have been there since launch have. It doesn't seem so fair. Another thing as well is that the speed of the game. So although I said like the speed of the game is something that I think is really cool and it feels really fun to use, I think if you're not like someone who's that experienced playing FPS games, or for example, you're just a casual player sitting on a couch after a hard day of work, I can't see you fancying playing against, you know, people running around at the speed of light, sliding, hitting crazy shots, or just the speed of which you have to play this game is very, very high. I love it. I've played a lot of FPS games. This is what I love. So I do love that kind of high speed stuff. But if you're not into that and you're into the more slow paced games, this really could deter either like, for example, new players, or it could deter experienced players who don't like the high speed nature of it. And there are some connotations that come along with that. You'll see comments about energy drinks. You'll see comments about certain communities of gamers and certain ages of gamers. You see a lot of that kind of chat there. I mean, you got to be honest, like you can't really shun, like for example, a game manufacturer or publisher producing a game for teenagers who want to play super high fast-paced games. Like that's a huge market of people. That's surely the market that you want to capture on a new game as well. So it doesn't really, you can't really like shun them for that. That's seemingly probably just talking plainly, a good business decision, like more than anything. Like that's a committed audience of people who have got a lot of spare time to play the game. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some fantastic games marketed more for people of my age, or like the dad gamers, that are also fantastic. But you can't shun someone for choosing to market a game to a younger audience. Like, that's completely their prerogative, and they have many good reasons to do that as well. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But the speed of the game might deter people. That's what I'd say. So my feedback would be, like, the game is really, really good. It has serious potential. It's a great game to play. It's free to play. There's no reason why this game has to be perfect for you. It's free. There's nothing stopping you playing it. It's cross-platform. The input-based matchmaking, I didn't talk about that. That is fantastic. The fact that you can basically play mouse and key only against other mouse and key players, that's fantastic. That's something we haven't seen that much. So it's awesome to have that in the game. I've been really enjoying that. I don't feel like I'm getting absolutely slammed by like controller aim assist, or I'm sure it's the other way around. I'm sure like people who play on controller are happy that people who play on mouse and key aren't in the game for their own reasons. Like sniping's way easier, for example, on mouse and key. So it's cool to have that in the game. So my feedback would be great potential. There are some really cool things in the game. It's fun to play. There's some bad things in it, but they seem fixable, just like slight tweaks to the game, patching things like invisible walls, sorting maybe weapon progression, maybe changing that a little bit, changing the XP that required to rank up, stuff like that. And in terms of the speed of the game, that's like what I say. I don't think that's necessarily something to change. I think that's just that's the feel of this game. That's what this game is going for, and it does it really well. It might deter people, but I'm not saying by any stretch that it shouldn't have it in the game. I'm just saying that that's just a feature of the game that might deter someone. So yeah, there you go. XDefiant. If you've been enjoying it, let me know in the comments below if you've been playing this game. What do you like? What do you dislike? Do you think it has real potential? Will it become a huge game? I personally don't know. I'm undecided. It's very early to make any suggestion like that. All I know is it's a great game to play. I wasn't paid at all to play this game or to make any of these videos. It's just something that I like to do when I do really enjoy a game, to give it its due, to kind of, pay credit to the developers of the game. It's a good game and they should be proud of it. It's really good fun to play. And yeah, let me know in the comments, guys. Cheers.